and then you're going to go hit Frank. And of course, they've got the final pick to go collect and double down on the tank counter. I'm not really sure that's how I would play that draft out myself. Certainly, you know, NINGUÉM SEGURA are focusing on the idea of overrunning this. As, you know, it looks directly into the camera there in a very fierce manner. Certainly, the Penny's going to have the toughest time against this kind of comp. Might be playing pretty well into the Stu. The Salty Barrel can be a quite good deterrent of that with that gadget. But certainly with the Colette and the Surge doubling down, especially as they feed Firecrow so early on, he's already got super off the mark, immediately carding on the left as well. And as quickly as that, Loud have shut down 2 of their opposition and have taken full control.
Yeah, and without wall break here on this Frank, there's really no way to break in. Kit's just going to be kind of sitting here, exhausting gadgets. They have to find some way to get a frag here. 5 gems in the pocket of Loud early, and a pushback and a takedown already. Veteran Tufa has fallen twice now.
Not a good start whatsoever here for NINGUÉM SEGURA. They've got to find some momentum. Already good shots from Firecrow to Bravo, going straight into an aggressive stance. Good timing, though, on the Kit side from Bravo. And now that might give a little bit more mid-control over, as Loud are forced away. Whole box there as well from Bravo, but now found once more and taken care of, in fact, by Dino with a final blow. Tufa now trying to assert some authority in the zone, but the gadget was missed. And now, as quickly as that, Loud can start to get the gems back on their side.
Yeah, this Colette is just locking them out. I mean, they're not able to do anything. There's the Kit going for something crazy here. Gonna be really tough with Firecrow and Kyo Dog surrounding him, and it's gonna lead to a gym countdown. Loud just running away with it.
Yeah, Tufa's got hypercharge, but that's about it. And especially with the aggressiveness there of Firecrow going in, there are going to be too much to say for it on the side of NINGUÉM SEGURA. They'll try to get some sort of reset, but it's going to be Kyo Dog or nothing. He's got super as well, can get away. And it's going to be the first game going the way of Loud.
And I do think a lot of that is due to the draft as well, Ark. I mean, again, I'm not trying to be a Kit hater. It's really not intentional, but the numbers don't back it up. And, well, I mean, I'm just going to be, we're going to keep it a buck here. I mean, the win rates last weekend were atrocious. It was not good. It's not a brawler that I think can be played everywhere. And across regions in the world, support brawlers are great. Barry, Poco, some of the most prominent brawlers in our meta right now. This is not one of them to me, though. At least not to the category and level of selection it's being picked. And it's really being exploited right now.
It's just very cheesy, and I think that works on ladder, you know, maybe even on ranked in the low levels, but, you know, it just doesn't really work on the competitive side of things for me. Again, Loud already have a good firming position in the mid, and especially with that cardboard box on the Kit side, once it's eradicated and diminished down, it'll be much easier for Loud just to kind of pick and choose where they want to go. Look at this Ryan side, complete and utter dominance there from Firecrow and Kyo Dog. Forcing out then, ready to foot to the left-hand side. Ooh, wow, good connection from the Kit, but that hypercharge Colette just coming in from Kyo Dog. Misses the second, but nonetheless, it's enough. And as quickly as that, again, Loud on 8 gems.
I can't help but chuckle. I mean, it's just been so convincing. Loud, the #1 seed, of course. This is the expectation we have for these guys, and we're looking for the red roster to kind of form an upset. But it's just constant dunks. Firecrow leaping on enemies. Tufa finally getting a super. Doesn't even have time to use it. Rated foot trying to move down the mid. No success here. Loud are coming out swinging here in our monthly finals with such an easy look in this set #1. It's going to be back to the drawing board for NINGUÉM SEGURA.
I mean, one of the most dominant victories I think we've seen all month, in my opinion. There wasn't really any moment that I felt like Loud were not in control of things. They lost positioning like once. I mean, that's about it. And it wasn't even like a very convincing loss of that mid. Immediately retook. I mean, you know, it's hard to really fault that. It was really all Loud. Such a convincing fashion. They're not even breaking a sweat, let's be honest.
Yeah, that's not a good way to build momentum up here. Oof.
I love that we're seeing the Loud player cams here too. You talked about them not even breaking a sweat. Did take some time for some quick comms. Having seen them in competition again and again, even seen them on these world stages, you know, this is their true form here. What do you think they're talking about, Art?
Probably about how bad the stats are, to be completely honest. I mean, 94 DPS in the Kit, and as a donut, that's, you know, very, very reminiscent of the World Finals. 82 DPS on the Frank side as well. I mean, every player on the side of Loud had combined that DPS and more. I mean, it's just really what you'd expect from a draft that went so one-sidedly. I mean, you can't really ever consider doubling down on a tank Kit heal concept when the third and final pick is with your opposition, and they've already got a tank counter to start with. Of course they're going to double down. It was the perfect draft for Loud, and I felt like it was just handed to them on a plate, in all honesty.
Yeah, you've been kind of hard on the kit picks last weekend, this weekend, Ark, and can you kind of single that out, break that down for me as we're kind of, got some new people learning this game for the first time, or some people who are picking it and maybe shouldn't be?
It's one of those brawlers which can have a bit of a cheese quality to it. Ultimately, there's a great amount of healing once you kind of latch on to your, fellow teammate, and the elusiveness of that particular brawler with the cardboard box invisibility effect with the gadget. Normally, pretty much that's what we see in the competitive scene, is the ability to just press the green button, go invisible, and change your positioning on the map. Try and take your opposition by surprise. It can work, actually, in my opinion, probably best actually in knockout, by weighing down the clock and waiting until the final moments. But these are the best teams in the world. They tend to focus their scrims and practicing around the tougher comps to be able to handle and manage and ensure that when they come to that draft, they don't leave any stone unturned. They're really kind of expecting it, and therefore they're not really committing too heavily towards a certain idea in the eventuality that if you're not going to ban it, it could still show its face. And Loud again played it perfectly. I think Surge was a great second pick to have. I think one that can just really be quite versatile and change the sway of the draft depending on what happens next. As we go into our second set then, Brawl center stage, the bans being the Janet, the Rico, and the Otis. Nice to see the Janet banned across the majority of these regions now is really quite a front runner now in this draft process. Berry and the Lou and the Stu banned out by NINGUÉM Segura, and the coin toss now over with Loud, so they get the first pick this time round.
Yeah, Juju just wide open here, so I'm curious to see how both of these teams kind of play out the draft. If you go Juju first overall, you are picking a thrower first. There is a little risk to that. Instead, though, I think Surge is going to be kind of a safe overall pick. On this map especially, there are going to be tanky ideas. With no Barry, they're going to be looking for ways like Poco to possibly back that up. But Ash, Kenji, Frank, Melody all get played here a lot as kind of aggressive or tankier options. So I think picking this up first overall makes a lot of sense just to kind of prevent the other side from getting too far ahead.
It's one of those maps where it's Juju's definitely always going to be good everywhere, in my opinion, pretty much. And for a very bushy map as well like this, definitely not going to be out of place to see. Now going to be followed up by NINGUÉM Segura. But I feel like I'm also concerned because Loud could have absolutely picked it first. They didn't have a plan in mind. So the fact that they've actually left it open and I've gone against it makes it feel like to me there's a bit more of a strategy, because you don't leave Juju open if you really have not banned it out in any sense. So certainly a very strong tank counter as well, and that's going to be now on the minds of Loud. But I think for me, the best way to counter Juju, there's not that many, to be honest, but I think to try to overgovern it with speed, try to go and overgovern it with aggression, really kind of get up and close and personal as quickly as you possibly can. Going to be doubled down with by the Buster on the side of NINGUÉM Segura, and it's definitely not a bad pick at all, one that's kind of escaped a lot of the drafts that I've seen over the weekend and over this month, and I'm not really too sure why, to be honest, because it is so good. And of course, when it comes to Brawl, probably one of the best modes you can have a Buster for it. So already seeing some better signs of the draft so far. But again, that third and final pick is where we tend to see the stories change quite quickly. This time it's going to be on the other side. So Loud have got to play this cautiously and ensure that they get this one right. Frank, they're playing a daring game with that one. Of course, the Juju's can play really well into it, but they can just overthrow things, maybe get the heal behind it as well. Did a bit of a rise of Poco recently too into the meta, so I wouldn't mind it. But if they can get close, rush things, there you go, there's a combination. That could overthrow things, but they are lacking the speed. That's a bit of a concern for me.
Yeah, you mentioned it, right? Overwhelming Juju, I think, is probably your best bet. Obviously, with Grigri on the map, you get an extra spawner, but Frank is the biggest of sponges on the map, and powered up with Poco is a huge way, I think, to try and take advantage here. Buster's not going to be able to bring him down easier. They're going to have Surge on their side as well, one of the better brawlers, I think, to get up in Frank's face, to jump on him, kind of disrupt those supers. I really like this well-rounded composition from Loud. This was kind of the direction I would have probably headed. Melody was also on my mind, just for a playmaker, a goal scorer, but we saw Colette be an answer to tank last time. This time, NINGUÉM Segura is going to take it into their hands. I think that's probably one of their better bets to give them a chance here, to be honest with you. I don't know if there was a perfect answer there.
I like it, for sure. I mean, they're definitely going to be trying to give Loud a bit of a taste of their own medicine as the way that they were treated in the previous set, and I quite like it. I think certainly the Vision Gear could be very much on the minds of the players here as well, just to try to give them the earliest idea of when a flank might be inbound. And certainly, I think it's given them a good chance for sure. But one thing I'll say is that if Loud just continue to trample this set in the way that they have been, then well, this is the best draft they've had so far today, which doesn't give me much hope if it doesn't work out. Already, Pilot got off to a slow start, which is good on the side of NINGUÉM Segura. Get some takedowns as well. Trades are coming out. and fast. 1 HP on Twintino is quite a rare sight to see on a Brawl, which doesn't really have any capabilities of being so of any kind of gadget use, unlike a Draco and such. But already, yeah, they're looking a lot better as a result of this draft. And Loud stacked now in spawns and not playing too well together, it seems.
Adinho gonna release a super here, rejected. The reflection coming in clutch here now a couple times. Could be a breakaway on this right-hand side, though. This red roster is set up for defense, offense, something much tougher. And the big barreling Frank just trying to move his way down. He's got assistance from Firecrow, who's being shredded through right now. A good super out here, a little shield up. They're releasing every shot they have on this man. They still haven't found a way to bring Adinho down.
Yeah, playing much better together. Kyodog now, last man standing, just trying to delay the inevitable, but there's a shot, and it should trickle over the line as well. The respawns were not there in time for Firecrow and Dino. And finally, we get a little bit of action on the side of NINGUÉM SEGURA as they get off the board.
Some signs of life here. A super dodge. Kyodog trades. Firecrow right hand in as the hypercharged super goes down. Looking to swing his way down the right-hand side. Not enough, though. This defense out of Buster has been incredible. Honestly, they have really shut down this Frank for the most part.
Oh, Bird's able to survive on there. Should be able to heal up as the hypercharge. That's definitely a concern as Tooth is now invisible. Trying to get some good shots from Twintino. Does get up a smash. Wasted gadgets. And two members of NINGUÉM SEGURA still stay standing on that right-hand side, just pocketing the ball now for the next 40 seconds as they'll try to delay the inevitable coming through. And that hypercharge is certainly going to be a very good thing to have on defense. The heal screen from Firecrow handed over to his teammates. They're pushing for the ball. Good connection for Bravo. Following through with a second one. Firecrow going to try and do his best all alone, but it's not going to avail too much. And Gregory on defense, definitely going to shut the very idea down.
Only about 20 seconds left to go. Shot clock approaching, and Kyodog nowhere inside of this ball. Adinho's going to have to grab it. Tufa on defense, releasing shots from a distance. All they have to do is battle the clock. Adinho, dribble, left hand in, breakaway, but a kick away and a perfect interception. Red roster throws it to the other side, and now Kyodog not going to be able to grab this. Signs of life coming in here in game number 1.
Fantastic stuff. It's what we wanted to see. And finally, a much better draft then. And one that has some legs, could even potentially even out these sets, but it is still early days. It's a glimmer of hope. And the first set was just so convincing in favor of Loud. This one now much more close together. Can Loud gain the game here? I think they can. I think they just cannot leave a big opening like they did last game. That was too much of an opportunity. And that Buster pick really now being the thorn in the side here of Loud. Pushing it forwards now. Bravo on the right-hand side with some great value. Should be able to walk this one through as well. And he does so spectacularly well in the first 20 seconds of play. Loud are crumbling.
I was giving them a lot of credit on center stage, especially in scrims leading up to this week. This was one of their better maps, but right now, NINGUÉM SEGURA making it look too easy. Rated foot on this Buster has been incredible. And he's now working this left-hand side. Kyodog still on stage 1 is Surge. He has to get up, but it's a super pass over, a miraculous play, and it's a tie ball game here. NINGUÉM SEGURA looking to pull off a miracle.
Fantastic stuff. That's what you love to see to start off the day. No sweeps happening in our first match. And some big things to consider now for Loud, because that was a very convincing set in favor of NINGUÉM SEGURA. I mean, again, I draw a lot of it back to the draft. I think that's where things went very well. That Buster pick, as I was saying, very underrated. And I don't know why it is so, because it's such a great thing to have in Brawl Ball there. Two there on 490 DPS as well. Great stats. And a much better night and day difference, really. All tied up. Fantastic.
All tied up. I know this is not what you guys are expecting. We were saying a quick 3-0 right at the start of this, but this is exactly what we love to see. Now, talk to me a little bit about, after that draft, you know, this is a different game mode. What could they have learned from that last one? Are they just staying away from Kit here, or is this a whole new plan that they've got for a whole new setup, Art?
I think the draft was definitely much better. Loud really just... They were playing the same style of draft as we saw in the first set on the side of NINGUÉM SEGURA, taking some risks that I don't think were really necessary to do so. You know, the tanky picks, even with combining the heals to it, just not really enough to overthrow a brawler like Juju for me. I was hoping to see a Max leading into that draft. That would have been kind of like, I would have expected to see a bit more of the aggression that we're used to seeing from Loud, maybe, to go against that Juju, but they left it open. I like the idea. It's a risk to leave it open for sure, but if you've got a firm strategy, no reason why on that particular map you have to necessarily pick it as your first pick. More often than not, though, pick Juju first. That's kind of how I see it. But certainly, I think that Loud will get back to some winning ways. I think that they've given themselves, a bit of a disadvantage now, and will look to try to turn this back into a more comfortable place very, very quickly as we move on to Bounty and Shooting Star. All about the sharp shooting side of things. I think this is pretty much a map for me that you do have to ban Juju, though. That middle area of Lake combined with the grass can have the slow or the additional range on her shots, so I think it's safe to ban it. Tick wouldn't be a bad ban for me here either. Certainly the Nannies, the Pipers, the Byrons, the RTs, and that kind of stuff too. I want to kind of see a heavy consideration towards banning those particular brawlers, maybe even a Mandy, which was very heavily favorited in South America above other regions as a brawler, so I wouldn't necessarily mind those ones being out of the picture here either. Max is an option. I wouldn't ban it necessarily, but if the Pipers do start to show their faces and the Nannies, they're going to ban it. I don't mind it. Angelo as well was one that I missed off there, but certainly a big reason to ban that particular brawler here as well. So far, bans all looking great for me.
Juju, Angelo are the first two I think of, and I think that makes a lot of sense why it's the right side banning it. They know they're not going to be able to get their hands on it, so they're going to lock it out of Loud's hands. RT about as safe of a first pick as I think you can get right now. And Knockout and Bounty, he is one of the top dogs for me. I think Gus is going to be in the equation here. A lot of these players have been using Gus and Melody as a combination. You get your aggressive Melody that can get up in their faces, and the Gus bubble with long distance kind of powers her up. So I do think that's a possibility here as we look forward in Arc. I hate to say it, but since Kit is not in the ban stage, I will say Kit does show up quite a bit in this region on this particular map, especially in combination with aggressive brawlers. I've seen Kenshi quite a bit, so it's a little crazy, it's a little out there, but I'm just going to call it how I see it and what I've seen this week.
I wouldn't want it any other way, Kenny, but you are wishing it from the universe at this present moment in time, and that makes me concerned. Gus, though, definitely was one that I think works really, really well here. Glad to see that particular brawler come through. Has the option of combining the shielding as well with a more aggressive brawler. Sometimes even Carl can be a good pairing with that kind of idea, but it provides more survivability and aggressiveness, really. So I'm kind of curious to see what the strategy could be. Well, the Gus as a standalone it is absolutely fine as well. Melody, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Melody, as we've seen a lot in East Asia on this particular map too, getting some fantastic results, and definitely the much better of those two ideas between the Carl and the Melody. So I really, really like that. It's a very strong draft. It's going to play pretty badly into the RT at times, so it really is all about timing to ensure that that leg form is being kept well away, and eradicating the RT as a primary kind of source of low HP attention, really. But certainly that's a great synergy. Loud here, looking to me like having the weaker of the draft so far. Still going to come in. In any other instance, I wouldn't be as much of a fan of it. But in the hands of Kaya Dog, I mean, if it can't work, then that they've given it the very best chance of working. But it is a very open map here, Kenny. Let's be honest, it's not really a map that caters immediately towards Stu, although I can see it working. With Byron, I don't think it makes much difference to me. I think that still I'm starting on the right side here.
I really love the start that the red side's got here. We've got Gus and Melody, which is a great combination. I think that kind of deters Loud from going the traditional sharpshooter route. Like I mentioned, you get a Gus bubble onto the Melody. She is going to dive at you. She's going to be pesky, and she's going to have those musical notes circling around her while she dances around you and takes down foes. And the name of this game is all kills. As long as you're getting those frags and keeping the lead, you're going to be great. The escapability she brings is also nice. I think Loud are kind of going with an out there composition. We've got Byron plus Stu. Stu's tougher for those sharpshooters at times if you can hit the jukes, and obviously, like you mentioned, Kyle Dog phenomenal at this brawler, but this is a really well-rounded composition on our right-hand side. I think I'm leaning their way too.
Piper can get overwhelmed sometimes against the Stu, but again, such an open map, not really much ability to push forwards. You're going to have to run Speed Zone as a gadget. I can't really see any advantage to trying to break the walls with anything else on that Stu gadget side. So, and it's also quite a good way to tank the Piper shots if you're really under pressure as a Stu. But even so, I mean, it's going to take a lot. It really is. This comp is so polished on the side of NINGUÉM Segura. I really like what they brought to the table in terms of strategy, but can Loud do anything against this? That's the question. Byron Hills from Firecrow going to have to land every single time to Firecrow, and he's not there for it in that instance. The kill was picked up, traded over though exactly as well. Actually into the hands of Loud. I think that poison trick must have been more than I was expecting.
I don't know if I love the process, but the result was great. I mean, he kind of just dashed away from Firecrow, and now Firecrow goes down. They're going to be pinned in his bottom right-hand side, and NINGUÉM Segura elect not to put too much pressure on him. They're going to hold this mid-control, let Firecrow respawn, get rid of that bubble, and now all of them are vulnerable.
Firecrow's going to have his work cut out, man. He's been healing the entire game, and sometimes it can only work for so long before you're just overrun, especially against a Melody now with Hypercharge on the side of Raider Foot. Down that left-hand side, making some space, I think is wise for Loud. They've still got the lead, but they do have to bring this back to a more mid-matched game. Firecrow 2 weeks have already gone on the healing side. Oh, some good taps though from Kyodog. Almost secured a takedown for that.
It was pretty close, and they did exhaust a couple of those 3-for-1 supers that you get with Melody. That's also one of the perks with her. She's going to use that last one there and try and recharge it up to get all 3 back. She's also just going to hug this wall with her musical notes. It's not allowing Kyodog to kind of push at them. He's having to zig and zag left and right, low HP, a gadget going down for Firecrow, a dive in. 1, looking for 2, doesn't get it. Kyodog survives, and with 30 seconds to go, they're going to be up 3.
Oh, Tuva just shortchanged to the left-hand side. Just scratching and grazing there with his shots, but nothing on the HP side. There's a final push coming in really here. And then NINGUÉM Segura, who are behind on the stars. Big poison trickle down that Melody in the mid as Kyodog gets the hypercharge, going straight for the eyes of that Piper and finds up the landing as well. 12 stars in the blue now for Loud, and in a very, very good spot to secure a game.
Gonna be a close call. Firecrow piling it on here as well. What's a couple extra kills for the stat line? Might as well get some garbage time stats. Nonetheless, a GG here in our first. Ademio back on top alongside his teammates. And to be honest with you, Ark, that felt like a lot of mechanics to me. I felt like Kyodog was really having to put in some calculated work to get those frags towards the beginning of the game. I think it could have gone real south if they didn't get that lead early. I think they almost needed it to kind of hang on, survive, and really make the red side kind of push up.
And it was a very, very clutch kill as well. I believe it may have been from the Kyodog flame of the Stu dash potentially there, or combined with that poison from the Byron. But it almost wasn't a lead that Loud had to play with. And gaining it early on, I fully agree, was really quite the way forwards here, as they're really fighting for the lead again, going super aggressive, getting right up in the faces there of NINGUÉM Segura. We're now trying to fight back. Oh, a lovely gadget pop with the hacks there from Adino, securing the kill on that right-hand side, giving then a 3-star lead over to Loud. A very advantageous stage of the game. Shield hands over to the Melody now, and some aggression. Not really much to come home with. Kyodog's weak and weary here, but staying alive, and Tuva's not connecting the shots. Now he does follow up, and that will close the gap somewhat, but there's still a 1-star lead in favor of Loud.
Ooh, and Tufa connects with another. The hacks aren't quite enough to get that kill on Melody, and as a result, Blue Star switching over to NINGUÉM Segura. They're gonna have a speed zone down. And they didn't make any kills with that bubble, but they did get a lot of presence and pressure, which allowed Tufa to push up to make those taps. So as long as everybody's doing their job, they're in good control here. They're gonna have to hold on for a little bit longer. The hypercharge moving down now, looking for 1. Kyodog goes, and they're expanding this lead. NINGUÉM Segura giving them a little fight back.
Yeah, lovely stuff. I thought Raiderfoot might get 2 for his trouble there, but just the 1 is plenty. 9 stars, and that blue. But this is where they struggle on the defensive side. It's kind of going in the shield just the right time there for Bro, but now taken care of. And it puts Raiderfoot back out of position, but he finds 1 behind himself. Now pinched out, and as 4 stars handed over. But Loud are still behind here with 20 seconds on the clock. They've got to find another takedown, but they've got the advantage of it being literally anyone.
Battling for the set now. Shot clock available. Kyodog right-hand side as Firecrow approaches the mid. Tufa has a hypercharge available. Not diving in quite yet. Kyodog skating around though. Rubber hits the road and Loud secures the kills. Raiderfoot nowhere in sight. He needs to get there, but Kyodog skates away. Incredibly played, and the mechanics persevere.
The clock, the way it was, I thought there may have been a world that they ran out of time for Loud, and it may have been a tied-up set, but not to be. And a really convincing way for Loud to come back in this series, because honestly, it was looking a very tough draft. I much still prefer what we see on the side of NINGUÉM Segura, but as soon as I saw the Stu, I thought if there's any team that can land this mark, it's going to be Loud. And they were so good in the aggression, putting NINGUÉM Segura on the defense time and time again, and coming out on top for it. Not an easy draft to make work, but one that is very much in the hands of Loud to do so.
Kenny, taking a look at the replay here, it looks like the story was the mechanics in this third set. I mean, talk to me a little bit about how Loud had to pull it together here to bring it to NGS, who was bringing a little bit more fire than I think anyone anticipated.
They've been really impressive. Outside of this first set, right, they've been drafting pretty well. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of with Ark. I think Loud made this a little bit more difficult on themselves than they needed to. The Stew's a comfort pick, but it's not an easy one to pull off on this map. And the fact that they did, I think, goes to show the caliber of a team we're working with. The draft is a lot, but ultimately you got to execute. And despite how we feel, it played out the way of Loud winning that 2-0. But I don't think this is over yet. I really do think this right-hand side's got a chance here.
Pick comes here from Loud. I'm liking what they're bringing already.
I will defend this right-hand side a little bit. They're going to be looking for wall break, and I think Griff's going to kind of cater to this as well, but they're going to go for this Angelo and Brock pairing. I think tear this open and try and make it a long-range affair, kind of deter some of that value that Juju would have gotten. Daryl is going to be a really aggressive factor that would have done great into Penny once those salty barrels are kind of exhausted. Juju, the one way she can't fend for himself is up close and personal, and that's exactly what Daryl does. Great at high safe damage, but this Griff pick's a really interesting one because not only is it going to be solid into breaking the map, I don't think that's necessarily what they're looking for, though. I think they want that super in tandem with the amount of high save damage he can do. I think this may be a decent shot at trying to block out this Daryl from being a threat.
Let's see how things fare. I just feel like with the Juju, though, against Daryl, it's going to be good on the defensive. Nice invisibility already from Medina, just picking that mid position immediately. So, trying to deny a little bit on the Daryl side. They probably fed him quite a lot on the side of Loud, but some good trades coming in now. 2 versus 2. Cardog, weak and weary, as is the Andrew there as well. It's 2 for by far the healthiest, now getting aggressed by that Griff pick. I quite like it. Firecrow, missing 2 shots there. He needs to finish him off, does so now, but now Daryl's on the safe for NINGUÉM SEGURA, and damage, more importantly, rolling in with that damage gear too. Bit of a miss gadget. You want that on the safe ideally as well. That would be a ton of damage. He was, on low damage gear level as well. You got to land those. That's a lot of damage wasted actually.
A lot of damage wasted. They exhaust a Penny barrel as well. You want to use those to defend against Daryl more than ideally. I mean, they can use them to block these single shot brawlers, but that was a long time to try and get one brawler takedown in a 2v2 situation. High safe damage certainly favoring NINGUÉM SEGURA right now. They're the ones that are aggressing. They're moving down, and another takedown on Dog. Adu's gonna have to put in some serious work right here to make up for this.
Burst not using his gadget on the safe at all. We've been trying to get super. Now he's got the hypercharge as well, but I mean, it's an odd choice, I mean, you're going to get super over time regardless playing a Daryl anyway. He's obviously struggling to close the gap, but you really want to. That's like 8k damage on the safe with a single gadget. I believe it's quite a substantial amount that you want to be reserving, but he's not really using it for that means. So just an interesting choice. Not sure it's one that I kind of agree with. 2 from the left-hand side though. Hypercharge going to surely try and find a time to land on the safe and does so here. So more continuous damage for the side there of NINGUÉM SEGURA. Got a healthy lead so far, but now the aggressiveness of Bo needs to suffice onto that safe, and dealing low. Good taps from Raider Foot as well might provide an opening here.
The long-range shots from Tufa and Ray have been phenomenal. Now they're laying it down on the high safe, bringing it all the way down to almost 30%. This is a huge difference. And I think the problem with Loud's composition is outside of maybe a Penny turret, a Griff super, they don't really have a way to play this unless it's control. But the other side, Red Roster has had control of the map the entire time. There's just no chance here for Loud to move.
They're really struggling, and that Penny turret now completely exposed. We'll be there for the taps. Brawl rolling in, trying to get behind this respawn. Gree, they're going to be helping on defense, but it's the damage that is lacking on the side of Loud. They're not going to have the time to be able to really establish much either. Not with 2 players standing on the side of NINGUÉM SEGURA and the respawn now of Brawl. So a very nice game. And this is really quite concerning for Loud. It's got to be. There wasn't really much to say for them in that set so far. That gives me too much hope. They got to establish a much better chokehold of this safe, which they just were not able to achieve that last game. This is dangerous. They're going to a 5th and final set, and that's a really concerning thing when you think about it. One bad draft or the coin toss is not going your way, and your strategy unfolding, and then you're losing, for your organization in the quarterfinal stages. I mean, we need to see more from Loud really quite soon, and that's not a good way to start. All 3 members now respawning back in, and NINGUÉM SEGURA got the high ground.
Tufa has had this left-hand side on lockdown. We saw him get across the map, drop a hypercharge there, but honestly, he's winning his lane. Now he's being pesky. This is where Adinho has an advantage, though. Throwers into these sharpshooters. If there's a wall involved, it's going to favor that side. But for a control-based comp, for Penny, for Juju, for Griff, they're not controlling the map. They have to find these frags, but somehow, some way, this Red Roster just keeps finding ways to get kills. Firecrow finally getting a few taps. It's just not enough compared to a Brock Super or a Daryl Roll on that safe.
turret, not really well placed. It could have been a bit more to the right-hand side for me. One tile gap there is going to leave it wide open for shots from the Angelo, and along with the Brock shots onto the grass. Not really anywhere now for Loud to hide. They're just taking too long to get set up, and there's one turret from Firecrow. He needs to get the hypercharge, and they need to start to get some damage in. They're getting some decent defenses, but again, time is not on their side right now. Firecrow's going to land more shots, get the hypercharge down, but also have his teammates stay firm. And the more map that's broken up and left wide open, less there is to hide realistically here. Hypercharge available for Brawl now. If he gets super now, it's going to be quite difficult to defend against it. So they've got to tap him down, which they do pretty well. Now, hypercharge there for Firecrow. The best chance that Loud have had all day so far in this set.
Firecrow gonna have to play this pretty perfectly. Penny turret is going to be shredded through, and now Brawl with a breakaway on the left-hand end, rolling straight at Kyodog, not even going for high safe damage. He's not gonna get a pick off this either. Kyodog survives. Firecrow with a hypercharge, trying to march up as well. They need as much positioning as possible here, and they're finally starting to even out this score.
Great prediction there from Tufa. That turret's been immediately eradicated. It was a great push forward from Firecrow. Diminished completely now. Gree taking some shots there from Raider Foot, as Firecrow still stays on the safe, getting some damage, but there's a lot still to be done there. And it's just Adino and Kyodog that have got to be able to bring in damage now before we can rejoin the mix. It's going to be NINGUÉM SEGURA going heavily now into the defense, and they've got a good setup to do so.
Shot clock now on. And it's going to be Brawl rolling forward. I want to see offense right now. Loud don't have time to defend this, but they have to. Resources force away from the other end. And believe it or not, Loud's honeymoon phase is looking shaky. NINGUÉM SEGURA, the number 8 seed, have taken another set and pushed us to a set 5.
I mean, full circle conversation coming around here, isn't it, really? Coming into today, me saying that I wanted to see a rise up in this region from a new contender. I want less of this kind of back and forth between sort of Loud and Casa Brawl this year. I want to see something else to join the mix. And there's some stats that really say that it could be NINGUÉM SEGURA that are that team. Tufa becoming back onto his old winning ways, combined with Raider Foot, who's his first monthly final. I mean, there's definitely some real things here for me that are exciting to be seen.
The first monthly final for Ray, and a huge pickup here. Great plays from Tufa. What else do you see in our...
I'm seeing Loud starting to quake in their boots a little bit. I mean, it wasn't a bad draft, but the aggressiveness we saw with the Daryl pick, you know, it really provided the space. I'm still not convinced that Brawl was landing the recalling rotator gadget on the safe as much as he probably should have done, but he was making the space for his team to come forwards, and the shots were landing pretty heavily. So the sharpshooting approach did work. It's a risky one to have with the Angelo, but Tufa was doing great work. I really got to say, some of the attentiveness, you know, with the ability to really isolate Firecrow's turret was for me a really positive thing to see. And that prediction shot from Tufa, I mean, the one time in that second game that we saw it having a very good positioning, a chance to lock onto the safe, and Tufa just shut it down immediately.
Kenny, we've been seeing amazing stuff here at NGS. I know this wasn't as predicted, but they really seem to have a lot to fight for here, led by Tufa. But what other insights can you give me into how this team kind of runs?
Honestly, it feels like they're just out drafting them. At the end of the day, we even saw in that set number 3, I think the red roster still had draft. It didn't work out. The mechanics were great at a Kyodog, and the Byron healed him just enough to survive. But I think this is a strategy diff. I really do. Outside of that opening set where Loud dominated, I think that right-hand side has been winning this category. The Daryl pick was something for me that stood out. I think that's what won them that set almost. The Brock wall break at the beginning allowed them to expand. It gives Brock a little space to move, more time to operate. They couldn't push forward, and because of that Colette ban, they have a safe Daryl pick into 2 squishier brawlers on the other end. Now Daryl can play offensively onto the enemy brawlers and also that high safe. I'm really impressed. Honestly, Loud leading up to this have been far and away the best team in practices, but practice is one thing. How these guys are playing entirely different, and this number 8 seed is really showing a fight.
It's better of it, and the Byron come over the RT in the late game as well. Could be a shout. It's definitely never a bad thing to have in your arsenal, but I think now it's a pretty close, tight draft. I think Loud have got some great ideas, much better than we saw in the previous last 2 sets, and NINGUÉM SEGURA, they've got that momentum in their sails now as well to consider heavily. The pressure on Loud, you know, they're representing a huge organization. It's just now a question of, can they lock this down? Already a great walking cane there from Raider Foot, eradicating that right-hand side as the map now fully open. And already NINGUÉM SEGURA pushing forwards this right, forcing Loud to the left. The side of Firecrow shielded up, of course, the better gadget and star power for me on that Pearl pick. But this is how you go against it. You got to go on the aggressive and very quickly early on. Great break.
Oh.
Wow.
That's huge too, because it breaks open that left-hand side grass. It's cutting Dog off from his teammates. Pearl already having to drop a gadget. Tufa gonna have to exhaust his super. They'll take that trade all day long on the Loud side. Tufa flanking now. They need to be careful here. Everybody kind of getting aggressive. You don't often see this in KO, but Dog invisible. They're not expecting this. Tufa falls. Brawl now in trouble. They drop a gadget to keep himself up. He's only got one more in the tank, but it is going to win them around more than likely.
Great from Dog there. That really was the decision maker moment. And if he keeps that up, he might be getting Loud out of a really, really tough position here. Leon is still strong. It's definitely not on our minds necessarily on the desk here too much. We've seen it escaping through just a little bit in terms of the draft, but like I said, coming in, it's not the flashiest. They're great and TP away from it as well, so Kaido's going to have to really choose his moments in RT with the dropping of the legs. Now with that super to hand, how much can Kaido do? But the ball is huge, and the eradication is swift. Now it's a 3 versus 2. The burn should seal up that takedown's on to rate of foot. My word, there's no way the Loud can't secure a 3v1, and they do it with ease. That is a very, very important game, and it may just be enough to give Loud some more confidence in this series.
That's the #1 seed kind of mechanics that I'm expecting out of these guys. I think they had Leon on their mind the whole time. For the folks at home, I don't think that was a spontaneous decision. The two brawlers that I think would have been best to do with Leon for the vision in this map, Pearl and Jean. First two I think of. Brock wall break, getting rid of that allows him to kind of expand, get more aggressive, and keep these close quarters, so it's a little bit more advantageous to him. It's a complete switch up here, though. They're all moving the left-hand side. They get a pull off the surprise factor for the win, and now Louder down a brawler.
Kaido going super aggressive, gets the trade super low. I don't think Firecrow's going to be able to do much here on his own. Does get whittled down to 156 HP. Juking wondrously well here, but will eventually go down. Not the opening hand which Loud wanted to see here, realistically. Firecrow knows it, dropping the pin there, expressing himself, but they did not control that scenario very well. There's Raider Foot really opening up some lovely moments. Kaido going invis here, going to the right hand side, but that's going to be a TP away as quickly as that. The burn, though, there from Firecrow will help see Tufa's demise. 3 versus 2 now, back in the favor of Loud. He's healing puffs here from Medino, really helping everyone get back really into their full HP.
They're taking some risk. They've taken the fight to Loud both times now. The left-hand side much easier, but the pull goes through. Dog with the assist, and now it's a 3v1. Looking very unlikely, and I think Brawl knows it. Conceding, moving to the back of the map. He already has his super. He's just doing his best not to feed a Dino, and he's going to put the feet down. More than likely has a gadget that he can use to get it back instantly. He's going to charge forward into the round, and now Loud are one away from yet another semi-final appearance.
Well, Kaido again has invis. No TP available for the Grey, so he could be going for the Raider Foot here. Going to the right hand side. Nice juke, still invisible here, going round. And now a burn might see his demise again. A gadget pop. He's surviving. He's got the hypercharge as well, so the heals would be there too. And a safety portal away. As now NINGUÉM SEGURA all together still alive in this. They're all pushed into the corner. Not the position that they want to be in at all, and they've got to work their way around this. As Loud at the moment, put them exactly where they want them.
All of them in the top right-hand side. Back corner. No room for aggression with Dog on a hypercharge and several supers for the side of Loud. Gotta be nervous for the red roster. The pull goes through as well. Loud burying them. Now the fog closing in here too. Leon flanking, invisible, nowhere in sight. Veteran Tufa goes down, and Loud right back on top once again. It was a thriller, but they will survive.
Woo! Loud dodged a huge bullet. They really, really did. The question now that we all have is how are they going to fare for the rest of today if the quarterfinals were that close? Massively, massively close. NINGUÉM SEGURA did so well. I mean, that could have been them breezing through to the semis in one of the biggest upsets of not just this region, but for the entire month. Let's be honest. But Loud, shaken, so far not stirred. They kept their cool for that draft. And it proved to be the most important one of the series. Dog with that Leon pick as the third and final on that side. Did pull in the goods. And my God, I'm sure that his team will be thankful for it.
Dog with that Leon pick. I do want to know more about this. Kenny, maybe you can speak to it a little bit there. Something they were maybe saving, something they had to bust out a little early, or something that you think they always had planned this matchup in particular?
I think Leon was what they were looking for. I really do. The Jean and Pearl kind of having shots that fan out, right? It makes it easier to a brawler like Leon that goes invisible. If you pick something like a sharpshooter, it's not always as easy to make that connection. So I think they were very intentional about it. Gene already very solid on this map. I think Pearl was honestly a good shout anyways, but I think they had Leon in their back pocket that whole time. I didn't see it much in practices this week, but that's why we play out the matches, right? There's no free wins in the BSC. Nonetheless, Loud come through, but dang, it was close. This is one of the two situations. It's either Loud aren't as good as we think they are, or this number 8 seed maybe has a spark to him that we just didn't expect.